Hello again. So now we are in week 5 now. Time really flies. And today we'll be talking about another lecture on full stack, which is persistence, and another lecture on trackness, which is about exceptions. Okay, so let's get started with the first one, which is persistence. So this lecture is actually about data in our software. So till now we've talked about like how we can develop our software, like how we can code in JavaScript, in TypeScript, and how we can do like testing, and how we can use like some framework, like and also use the pipeline to automate some of the process and scale our software development process. And this is the lecture about data in software systems. So when talking about data, what comes to your mind? What do you think is important about data in software, and what is the data in software? Any thoughts? For example, if you are using e-commerce software, like you're buying on an e-commerce platform, and you find some item that you are interested in, and you put that in your shopping cart. And then your shopping cart, there's one more item in your, just one more item now in your shopping cart. And this is like one example of data of your software, like what the user has put in their shopping cart. Right. Data, like in more general sense, is the fact that can be recorded and can have implicit meaning. And from data, we can also find insights like information. So for example, in the stock market, like there are a lot of data in the stock market, right? And there we can like analyze the data and get more information based on those data. So data is critical for an application to function. So for example, we have an e-commerce platform, and the user browse on our e-commerce platform, and then they like some of the item, they put some item in the shopping cart, and they may also later choose some of the item and pay for those items. So these are all data in our software. More specifically, like in an application or in a software, there are a couple of layers. So when we talk about layers in the software, on the top level is the interface layer, like what we can see in the e-commerce platform. So what you can, like the buttons, the items like the food, or if you want to buy a cup, whatever. So these are what we can see is the interface layer. And in this layer, we can like click on the buttons, and we can also receive information, like we can load pages on this layer. And under that is the business logic layer, like maybe we can have some recommendation systems in the e-commerce like shopping platform. Right, they can analyze some of the data and then recommend some of the items based on our shopping history. So that is the business layer. And we also have service layer, like more details, like how the business layer logic can function. And at the bottom is the data layer, like where those where those data are saved, like the shopping history, what item put in the cart. So everything about that is saved in the data layer. And for the interface, can you see clearly? Do I need to turn the lights off? All good? Off a little bit? Room control, lightening, 25%. Is that better? Okay, cool, great. So for the top 3 layers, like from interface layer to service layer, these layers are often stateless. What is state here? So state in the function, like is the like a current snapshot of your software. Like what is the current state of your software? Like maybe you have some objects, and what are the values, like values of the properties in the object, and so more specifically, what is exactly in the shopping cart is the current state, like one example. And the current history, like current shopping history of one customer. This is also another example of the state of our software. So the user's current history or data using the software. And for the above three layers, they are often stateless, meaning that we are not saving any data in that, but we are saving the history, like what is in the shopping cart and those information in the data layer. Okay. So we are storing data in the data layer. So often, like when we are talking about data layer, we are talking about database. So database is a quite large term, like a lot of topics are in this database. And we have a lot of people doing research in many broader areas about database. So there are three main ways in summary, like how we store data. And the first one is in memory, saving in the RAM. So this is when we say like saving in the memory. So when you shut your laptop down, shut your computer down, and you open it again, this kind of data saving in the memory is lost. You do not have that again, like when you restart your computer. And the second one is saving data in a file, like what do you have in your file system? For example, you have folders, you have subfolders, like where you save your data about your code. So this is how we save data in a file. So all your file system, like you have your folders, subfolders, and you put your code or your like your slides or everything in those folders. So this is storing data in a file. And more advanced is storing data in a database, like relational SQL or non-SQL. So this is something like, if you're interested, you can learn those in 3311 about like how we can have more advanced method of saving data in a database. So for in-memory data, it's non-persistent. So what we mean by non-persistent, meaning that when we restart the application, the data is no longer exist. So that is non-persistent. But sometimes like in memory, like saving data in memory can also have its own advantage. For example, when you are like playing some games, and you may have a leaderboard, and the data in that leaderboard update like instantly. So when we want to save data quickly and fetch data quickly, we save those kind of data in memory because we do not need to save it in a system or save it as a file, but you just only put that in your memory, and then you can save quickly and fetch that data quickly. So when the data needs to update like instantly, such as in a leaderboard or the data in the stock market, so this kind of data, like we normally save it in memory. In file, like file system storage or saving data in file, is also called like file level or file-based storage. So this is what we are going to cover today in this lecture. So this way of saving data. And it is hierarchical because we have like, for example, in my folder, I have like one folder, and under that I have like, for example, subfolder, and subfolder. So it's hierarchical, right? So we can save data hierarchical if we save data in files. And it's very simple. With a like directory, like for example, in a terminal, we can know where we are by using, so let me clear that, and by using pwd, and now we can know where we are, like which directory we are now at. So in file storage can have like, it's very easy to save, it's very easy to use, and it's also very easy to share. Like you know how you share your files, right? You can send your file through, for example, Microsoft Teams. You can also share your files through like emails and whatever, like a lot of ways that you have been using. So it's easy for sharing. And it's also easy for data protection, because for your different folders, you may have different security level for your different folders. For example, you have like top security folder, like only you can have access to that folder. Like everything in that folder is private, like only for you. And another folder, maybe you want to share within your group. So this like security level is like available only within your group. And you may have other files, like you want it to be publicly available, or like with the link, everyone can have access to that. So you can have different security level for your different folders, like so that it's easy to set like data protection for your different folders for your files. And you can also, like nowadays, when we are designing, like when we have a software and when a lot of users starting to use our software, there may be a lot of data that we want to store. And with our own laptop or with another like computer, with a server, it's not enough for us to save everything, like store all the files in the single machine. So nowadays we also have like services from AWS and also other cloud service, like they provide cloud file storage. So with the way of saving data in files, we can leverage those cloud services, and then we can save our data for our software on cloud. So it's very easy to use. So these are the benefits of file storage. So storing data adds persistence to our software. So this means like when we restart the computer, restart our app, the data is still available to us. Okay, so last lecture when we talk about HTTP servers, we try to use the put and the post method, and we send data through the URL or through the body when we are using post method or put method. That data was stored in RAM, was in memory. So let's have a look at that again, and then you can get a better idea what we are talking about. Okay, so let's try to get one example from last lecture. So this was our apple and orange example. Okay, and let's try to open our API client. Okay, so let's have a try first. Like what do we need to do first? Like we need to start our server. We need to get our server running first, right? Okay, so now I'm at the right URL. Do you remember how we run our server? npm run. One way is to use ts node and the server file, like run the server file through npm run ts node. Last time we also tried to use nodeman, like when we update a file, like our server file, we do not need to shut the server down and restart the server again. So the way we can use is nodeman, and the file name was crud.json.ts 4.2 crud.json.ts. Oh, wrong file. Okay, sorry, let me restart it again. It's in the source folder. Okay, so now we are running our server on port 3001. So let's get over API client. It's on 3001. So let's have a quick recap of this server file, and then just in case you forgot some of those. So we define the app as an instance of our Express server, and then we want to run our server on port 3001. Okay, and then with express.json, we can simplify the process. Instead of using REST send, we can directly use rest.json when we are communicating with the server in JSON data files. Okay, and by using request.query.name, we can send the value of name through the URL, right? And then we give the name to here, like by sending the data to from the client to the server. And similarly with post, the way we give information to the server through post is by using the body. So we can have request.body and name, and then we can have hi name, thanks for sending the apple. And by running app.listen, we start our server, and the server start to listening to all the requests and responses. Okay, so let's have a try running it. So now we have we are running on port 3001, and through this get method, the URL now is /apple, and we sent that, and what we got is hi anti-fan, thanks for sending anti-fan. The reason is that we didn't give the value of name and fruit name through the URL. So now we give it a name and a fruit name, and we send this request again, and it becomes hi COMP1531, thanks for sending the watermelons. Just a recap of what we learned from last lecture. And similarly with post, okay, we give the values through body. Instead of through the URL, we give the message through the body. So now we have name, which is Sally, fruit name is orange, and then we send this request, and then hi Sally, thanks for sending the apple. However, now this data is only stored in memory. So Sally or orange, these are only stored in memory. So when I, for example, let's restart this server file. So by Control-C, oops, run this again. I Control-S, and you can see it's listening again, like restarting due to changes. Right, and then let's go back to our API client without giving the information here in the body. We can see like hi anti-fan, thanks for sending anti-fan. So all this data is not lost, right? Because we are only saving this data in memory. So how can we save this data persistently? Like when the user on our e-commerce platform, they put an item in their shopping cart. They restart this e-commerce platform, how can the item still be listed in their shopping cart? So how can we do that? So we can save the data in a file by using in-file storage. So now what we want is saving the data about the name or the fruit name in a file. Okay, and then when we restart the server, like we reopen this application, we can read from this file. So everything is saved in this file. We can also update the data in the file. Okay, so this is what we want to do now. So more advancedly, like what we want is we want to be able to use the data like we post through the body. So for example, we give some like the name through the body, through the post method. And is there any way like we can get this value like without putting the information in the URL again? Like with only apple, like dash apple, we can read the data like we put through the orange post method. Is there a way like we can do that? So now we need a global variable so that the value posted through the orange can also be available when we use the apple get. Okay, cool. So now let's define a global variable. For example, like data. I want this data to be an object. And within this object, I have two. One is the name. So X is now and Y is now. So I have two properties here. Okay. Then what I can do is when I get the value through post, I need to have one more here. This is the fruit name, fruit name. Okay, and this should be fruit name, so that we can be consistent because we have two values passing in the get. So we want to be consistent so that we can use the value for both get and post method here. So this should be fruit name, fruit name. Okay, so now we pass in the value from the body, and we save this value to data.x, and similarly we have we can save this to data.y. Now, so what I'm doing now is that we can use the data object to save data for both post and get, so that we can get what we posted through the orange. Okay, let me know if you are confused at any point, and we will try to explain. Okay, so now because it's a global variable, and what we want is with an apple, like /apple, we don't need to put the information through the URL again, but we want to use the data.x and data.y directly. So this is what we want to do. Okay, so I've modified this a little bit, and then let's try to have a look at the our API client. So now we pass in information of name and the fruit name through this post method, and we give them value as Sally or orange. Okay, I was checking because we need to be consistent, because here we use request.body.name. So now in this JSON input, we also we need to be consistent, like we are using name and fruit name here. So this is just a variable name. You can change that. For example, you can have like request body X, request body Y. Then here you need to have X and Y. So we only need to be consistent, but it's just a name of that variable. Okay, so let's send this message, and then it says, "Hi Sally, thanks for sending this apple. Thanks for sending the orange." Now let's go back to this apple, and then we do not put in any information through the URL, and we set that directly. And the message we got was, "Hi Sally, thanks for sending the orange." So this is how we can pass in information through post, and then we can use the get method to read from the information that we sent through post. Okay. Now what we are going to do is to, so although we can now get this data, like the name and also the fruit name, however, this data is still saving in memory. So let's try restarting the server, and you find that all this data, like Sally and orange information, is not still available. So now we restart that server, and we go to like apple get method, and we send that again. And it says, "Hi now, thanks for sending now." Right, so this is an example of saving data in memory. So, but now we want it to be persistent. Like we want to save this data about name and also fruit name in a file, so that we can open this file, read this file again, like when we restart that server. Do you remember how we can save data in a JSON file? We talked about that in the lecture about JSON, but it's okay if you do not remember. So let's quickly recap that. So the way we can read and write a JSON file is by importing a library fs from fs. So we need to import this library to be able to read and write from JSON file. And then after we get the data of name and fruit name in this like post method, what we want is we want to save the value of name and fruit name in a JSON file, so that the data can be persistent. Okay, the way we save JSON file is by using fs.writeFileSync. So this is the function that we can use from the fs library to write data into a JSON file. Okay, so now we need to tell them like which file we want to write to. So we do not have any JSON file now in this folder. So let's have a try before. So pw, make sure I'm in the right directory, and I list all the files here. Okay, so we have a package.json file and tsconfig.json file, but nothing else, no package.log JSON file. So now we want to save it, for example, a DB database. For example, we call it a database database.json file. Okay, so what we want to save it in into this JSON file is this data object. Okay, before we save this data into this database.json file, we need to make sure this data is of JSON data type. So now this data is an JavaScript object. So we need to JSON stringify it. JSON stringify this data before we save it into this JSON file. Is that all? Is there anything we need to do before we write to this database.json file? Anything else we need to do? Nope. I think that's it. Okay, so let's have a try. We are still listening on port 3001. The server is still running. So now let's open our API client. And let's try send this name and fruit name value through this post method. Hi Sally, thanks for sending the apple. And now let's have a try and see if we have got another JSON file. So now you can see that one additional JSON file is created by running write file sync. Right? So now we have another new file called database.json. Now let's have a look what is in this file. Database.json. So now we have saved a JSON string in this JSON file, which is X is Sally and Y is orange. However, I think there's something wrong that we have done here. Do you know what is wrong here? Yeah, it should be fun. Now let's go to this apple and we run again. It still says, hi now, thanks for sending now. We are not passing this information to get. Okay, so now let's have a look. What we want is, in this database.json file, it should be name is Sally and fruit name is orange. No, it should be, yes, this is right. Nothing's wrong here. The reason is that we are storing this data, and data has X and Y, right? Yep, so this is correct. And now let's go back to this apple get. Let's try to send this request. Is my server running? Yes, it's running. Okay. Write file sync. JSON string file. Why my apple is not working? Okay, so let's console log it first and to do a little bit debug. Console log. So what do we need to console log here? What about data.x? Let's go back to our API client. Now it's console logged. Okay, this is weird. Okay, so now it's debugging time. Anyone know what is happening here? Hi Sally, thanks for sending the apple. Orange. Hi Sally, thanks for stringify. Request. Oops, sorry, the wrong one. Yes, that's right.
You have to read file sync.
Why do I need to? Yes.
Like read.
Yes, I think so when we restart the server, everything is still in this database .json file. But if we do not read from that, it's still we cannot use that data before we read from that. So what we need is that after before the get method, we need to read from this JSON file. That's correct. Thank you. So do you remember how we can read from that JSON file? fs read file sync and then the path. Right. So which file we want to read from. So it's called database.json. Okay. So after we read from that, what we got should be a JSON string. So we temporarily save it somewhere. For example, JSON string. And then before we use that, we need to remember what we need to pass it into like a JavaScript object. JSON, yes, that's right. So data equals to JSON.pass this JSON string. In that, is that right? JSON. Okay, so one thing when we read directly from a JSON file, it's a buffer tag now. So we need to make it a string before we can use JSON pass. So we need to make sure it's a string, and then we can use JSON pass to pass this JSON string into a JavaScript object. Yep, question.
Will the JSON string be already a string, or we have to put it as a string again?
By default, it will be a buffer. Yeah.
Oh, so it's something that we can't read.
Yes, we can't read directly. We need to make it a string first, and then we can use JSON.pass to pass that JSON string into a JavaScript object.
Once it is passed from the JSON file to this file, it's a buffer.
Yes.
Of that we can decrypt it.
Yes, that's right. Okay, so now let's go back to our API client. And after we post that, give a value name as Sally and full name is Orange. Now let's get it. You can see that we can now have hi Sally, thanks for sending the apple. And even though we restart that server, so for example, let's Control C and restart this server. Without giving the value in through the post, through the body, you can directly get, for example, hi Sally, thanks for sending the orange. So now the data is persistent. Our software is persistent. So let's have another look at our database.json file. Database.json file. So this is what we have now. So every time we use post method to change its value, for example, name we change to, oops, what is happening here? COMP1531. Full name, for example, we give it Kiwi, and we send this request. You can see it's updated directly. So the information saved in this JSON file is updated. Okay, let's give it another one. For example, watermelon, and we send the request, and then hi, X become COMP1531, and Y now is watermelon. Yep. We can also add it directly from this JSON file. For example, we have time. Okay, and we save that file, and we go to get. We send the request, and becomes time. Hi time, thanks for sending the watermelon. Yep. So in this way, our software can be persistent. Like we can have a very, very simple database in file. So without a very complex database system, we can just save the data in a JSON file. And the reason that we save in a JSON file, there are a couple of reasons. So the first one is the data, like we normally talk with the server, like the client talk with server through the API is by using JSON data. So normally we can save the data in a JSON file, like when we use in-file storage. Another reason is that there's a lot of programming language can read and write from JSON. So if we save this data in a JSON file, for example, we have one component in our software written in JavaScript, and we save this data in a JSON file. Another software component using Python can also read from this JSON file. So it's easy for different components of our software to communicate with each other when we save this data in a JSON file. If that makes sense. Any questions so far? All good? Yeah. In your iteration 2, project iteration 2, you may have noticed that there's a section called persistence. So you will need to save your data in file, like in such a simple way. It's not very complex. Just the data, what do you have? Like the object, JavaScript object. You make it a JSON string, and then save this JSON string in a JSON file. And then you can read from JSON file later, right, so that you can make your software persistent. Yep. Nothing too complex here, I think. Yep, we have already mentioned that. Yeah, when the server starts, we open this JSON file and set a global variable to be the past JSON object, like what we did here. Oops, not this one. When the server starts, we read from this file and pass it into JavaScript object data, and then we can work on this data in our other roles. Right. And also, we want to save our object as a JSON string in a file, like what we did here. You can also simplify it a little bit. For example, you can define a function called save. So you can have const save, because it's global variable. And then, oops, sorry. We can put it here, and then we can call save directly, like that. It's the same. It just makes our code a little bit cleaner, right? Without having long code here and there, because we will be using this save function a lot of times. Like when we update some of our JavaScript object, we want to save it. So you can define a function called save, and then we just call this save function. Yep, this one was we use for debugging. Yep. Okay, I think that's it. Pretty straightforward, right? I think. But if you have any question, just feel free to ask. Otherwise, that's everything about persistence. Let me have a look and see if there's anything else left. Yep. Okay, if no other question about persistence, yep, question.
I have a question about the post and put method.
Yep.
Is the only difference is the way we, the meaning of it? I mean,
Yep.
Is the implementation of it the same, but it's just different about why we use it?
Okay, so the question is, what's the difference between put and post, and when to use which one? Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it really depends on. Well, there are similarities. Like by using put and post, we can send information to the server, right? But the way we pass this information in is different, right? With get, we pass the information in through the URL, right? With post, we give this information in through the body. But both of them can use params. I'm not sure if you remember params. Yeah, with params, both get and post can get information in through the URL. Right. In real scenarios, like a post can be more often used, for example, in a YouTube. So here's a YouTube. When you like something, dislike something, give a comment. So this normally is through post. Right. But on web CMS, for example, here you can see it's still can be used post. So in some companies, they just simplify the process, like maybe use most of it using put or mostly using post. Yeah, it really depends on like conventions. Like different companies, different organizations, they may also have conventions. But in the project, we kind of tell you which one to use. We have an interface. Yeah, question.
Yeah. There's specific factors that you have to do something possible. Basically, get responsible instead of jumping in the other.
Sorry, I didn't really get the question.
You just saying you could do stuff with possible. It was switching the word first. Because otherwise it's possible. Well, show up and
Sorry, I still didn't really get the question, but if anyone, but we can discuss after the lecture if it's fine. Yeah, sorry about that. Cool. Any other question about persistence or get and post method? All good? Okay, cool.